Some things disappear so quietly that the world does not notice right away. A cup left on a table. A door left open. A twin who was supposed to come back before sunset. Milo noticed the silence first. The house they shared had always been filled with small sounds. Noah humming while tying his shoes, the soft knock he made before entering a room, the laugh that came when Milo teased him. That evening none of those sounds came. The clock moved forward, slow and loud, and the sky outside turned from gold to deep blue. Noah had promised to return early. Milo stood by the window for a long time, pressing his fingers against the glass. He told himself there were many simple reasons. Maybe Noah met an old friend. Maybe the bus broke down. Maybe he just needed time alone. Twins understood each other like that. They did not always need words. But when night arrived and the streetlights flickered on, fear finally found Milo. He reached for his phone again. No answer. He sent messages that stayed unread. With every minute, Milo felt something heavy grow in his chest, like a stone sinking deeper and deeper. Milo and Noah were not just brothers. They were mirrors. Born on the same day, raised side by side, they shared everything: dreams, fears, and even the pain of being omegas in a world ruled by alphas. Noah was the brave one, the thinker. Milo was the soft one, the heart. Together they felt complete. Alone, Milo felt half-finished. When their family returned home, worry turned into panic. Voices grew sharp. Doors opened and closed too fast. Their parents whispered in the corner, faces pale. Someone said Noah's name again and again, as if saying it enough times would bring him back. But Noah did not return that night. Or the next morning. By the third day, the house no longer felt like home. It felt like a waiting room where hope slowly faded. Milo barely slept. Every sound outside made him jump. Every knock on the door made his heart race. Then on the fourth day the knock finally came. It was not Noah. 3 men stood outside, dressed neatly, their faces calm in a way that did not match the fear in the house. They did not ask to come in. They walked in like they already belonged there. Milo felt cold. One of the men spoke politely, but his words carried weight. He placed papers on the table. The name at the top was Noah's. Milo recognized it instantly. The room seemed to tilt. The man explained slowly, like he was speaking to children. An agreement had been made long ago. A promise tied to money, power, and protection. Noah had been arranged to marry an alpha from a powerful Mafia family. The name Kale was spoken once. Milo had heard that name before. Everyone had. Kale was not just an alpha, he was a Mafia leader. Strong. Untouchable. Dangerous. Milo's hands shook. Their parents looked away. The man continued. Noah's disappearance did not erase the agreement. The marriage would still happen. The debt would still be paid. And since Milo was Noah's twin, the role could be replaced. Silence filled the room again, heavier than before. Milo felt something break inside him. Not loudly. Not in a way others could see. It broke quietly, like glass under water. He looked at his parents, waiting for them to speak. Waiting for them to say no. Waiting for them to protect him. They did not. That was the moment betrayal took shape. Milo realized he was not being asked. He was being given away. That night, Milo lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He thought of Noah, where he might be, whether he was scared, whether he was still alive. He wondered if Noah had known about the marriage. If Noah had tried to run. And then a new thought appeared, sharp and painful. What if Noah disappeared because of this? The next morning, Milo was taken from the only life he knew. No ceremony. No joy. Just a car waiting outside and a future decided by others. As the gates of Kale's mansion closed behind him, Milo felt fear, anger, and sadness twist together. But beneath all of it, something else slowly formed. A promise. Milo promised himself that he would not disappear like his twin. He would survive. He would learn the truth. And one day he would find Noah, no matter who stood in his way. Because even gentle hearts can grow strong when pushed too far. And this was only the beginning. The car stopped without a sound, but the fear inside Milo was loud. Tall black gates stood before him, stretching higher than anything he had ever seen. They opened slowly, like a mouth ready to swallow him whole. Beyond them was a large house made of stone and glass. It did not look warm. It looked careful. Every wall felt like it was built to keep secrets inside. Milo held his bag tightly. Everything he owned was inside it. Clothes, a photo of him and Noah, and the last letter Noah had written and never sent. The driver opened the door. No one said goodbye. Milo stepped out and the gates closed behind him. That was when he understood something important. This place was not meant to welcome people. It was meant to control them. Inside the house, the air felt cold and clean. The floor shined so much Milo could see his own reflection. He looked smaller than he remembered. Softer. Like he did not belong here. Servants moved quietly, their eyes lowered. They did not smile. They did not speak unless spoken to. Milo noticed how they walked carefully as if the walls themselves were listening. Then Kale appeared. He did not rush. He did not look angry or happy. He simply stood there, tall and still, his dark eyes studying Milo like a puzzle that did not interest him much. Kale's presence filled the room without effort. Even the servants seemed to breathe differently when he was near. This was the alpha Milo had been given to. Kale spoke only one sentence. "You are not Noah." The words were not cruel, but they were sharp. Milo swallowed. "No. I'm Milo." Kale nodded once, like he had expected that answer. "The marriage still stands. No welcome. No apology. Just a fact." Milo felt his chest tighten. He wanted to shout. He wanted to ask about Noah. He wanted to say this was unfair. But fear held his voice back. Kale turned away as if the matter was finished. That was how Milo learned something else. In this house, feelings did not matter. A servant led Milo to a large room at the end of a long hallway. The room was beautiful, but it did not feel safe. The bed was too big. The windows were locked. The door clicked loudly when it closed. Milo sat on the bed and hugged his knees. The silence pressed down on him. In his old home, silence meant rest. Here, silence felt like waiting for something bad. Hours passed. No one came. Milo wondered if Kale even remembered he existed. When the door finally opened, it was not Kale. It was Riven. Riven was tall like Kale, but his eyes were softer. He knocked before entering, which surprised Milo. That small action felt important. "You must be tired," Riven said gently. "I'm Riven." Milo nodded. "I'm Milo." "I know," Riven said and offered a small smile. "Dinner is ready. You should eat." Milo followed him quietly. The dining room was large and empty. Kale was not there. "He doesn't eat with others often," Riven explained, seeing Milo look around. Milo nodded again. He was not sure why, but the fact that Kale was not there made him feel both relieved and sad. As Milo ate, Riven spoke in a calm voice. He explained the rules of the house. Where Milo could go. Where he could not. Who to speak to. Who to avoid. It sounded less like a home and more like a list of warnings. "Why am I really here?" Milo asked suddenly. Riven paused. "You are here because of an agreement," he said carefully. "But that doesn't mean you are worthless. Or weak." Milo looked up. "Everyone treats me like I replaced someone." Riven met his eyes. "You didn't choose this." Those words felt like a hand reaching out in the dark. That night Milo could not sleep. Every sound made his heart race. He thought of Noah again. Was Noah somewhere like this? Trapped? Alone? A tear slipped down Milo's face. He did not notice Kale standing in the doorway. Kale watched silently. He saw the way Milo curled in on himself. He saw the fear. Something uncomfortable stirred in his chest, something he did not like to name. He turned away before Milo could see him. Because caring made people weak. And Kale could not afford weakness. But deep inside the cold walls of the Mafia house, something had already begun to change. Milo was not just a replacement. He was a storm waiting to grow. Days passed, but time inside the mansion did not move like normal time. It felt slower, heavier, like every hour had to ask permission before it could go by. Milo learned the routine quickly. Wake up early. Eat quietly. Walk only where he was allowed. Speak only when spoken to. The servants were polite but distant, as if getting close to him was dangerous. Some looked at him with pity. Others looked afraid. No one spoke about Noah. That hurt the most. Milo spent long hours alone in his room. He stared out the locked window and imagined the city beyond the walls. Somewhere out there his twin was missing. The thought burned inside him every day. Kale did not come to see him. At first, Milo thought that was a good thing. Kale's presence felt heavy, like standing too close to a cliff. But after a while, the silence began to feel like another kind of punishment. Milo did not know what Kale thought of him. He did not know if Kale blamed him for not being Noah. Not knowing was worse than anger. Sometimes Milo felt watched. When he walked down the hallway, he sensed eyes on him. When he sat in the garden, he felt a shadow nearby. When he ate, he noticed someone standing just out of sight. It was always Kale. Kale never spoke. He never came close. He only watched, his face unreadable. To him, Milo was a problem he had not planned for. A soft omega placed into a world built on strength and fear. Kale told himself he was only watching to make sure Milo followed the rules. But that was not the whole truth. One afternoon, Milo slipped in the garden. He scraped his knee on the stone path. The pain surprised him, and he let out a small sound before he could stop himself. A servant rushed over, nervous and shaking. Before the servant could touch him, a strong voice spoke. "Leave." The servant froze, bowed and ran. Kale stepped forward. Milo looked up, startled. This was the closest Kale had ever been. Up close, Kale looked even more intimidating. Tall, sharp, controlled. But Milo noticed something else too. Kale's hands were steady as he knelt. "You're bleeding," Kale said. "I know," Milo answered softly. Kale tore a clean cloth and wrapped Milo's knee carefully. His touch was firm but gentle, like he was afraid of doing it wrong. Neither of them spoke. When Kale stood up, Milo gathered his courage. "Do you hate me?" Milo asked. The question hung in the air. Kale turned slowly. "No." "Then why do you treat me like I don't exist?" Kale's jaw tightened. "Because this was never meant for you." Milo felt pain rise in his chest, but he did not look away. "It wasn't meant for Noah either." Kale said nothing. That silence was an answer. Later that evening, Riven came to Milo's room. He brought books, warm tea and quiet comfort. He listened as Milo spoke about Noah, about fear, about feeling unwanted. "You don't have to disappear here," Riven said gently. "Not everyone in this house believes omegas are weak." Milo smiled faintly. "Sometimes I think I already disappeared." Riven shook his head. "I see you." Those words mattered more than Riven knew. What Milo did not see was Kale standing outside the door, hearing everything. Kale felt something twist inside him again. Guilt. Regret. Emotions he had locked away for years. He had built his life on control, on power, on never letting feelings interfere. But Milo's quiet strength disturbed that balance. That night, Kale made a decision. He ordered his men to begin searching again for Noah. Not because of the agreement, but because Milo deserved the truth. And because somewhere deep inside, Kale knew the real danger was not caring too much. It was realizing he already did. The mansion was quiet again, but Milo could feel the tension shift, almost like the walls themselves were watching him differently. He had grown used to the routine, silent meals, measured footsteps and Kale's distant gaze, but now something new had appeared, a small thread of kindness weaving its way through the cold halls. It started with Riven. Every morning, he would appear with a gentle smile, carrying breakfast or a book for Milo. Sometimes he simply sat near him, not speaking, just offering company. Milo noticed that with Riven he could breathe a little easier. He could laugh quietly at small things, like when a bird perched awkwardly on the garden fence or when Milo's shoelaces got tangled in a way that made him trip. "Even the smallest things matter," Riven said one afternoon, brushing dust from a chair. "They remind us who we are." Milo clung to those moments. They made the days bearable. They reminded him that he was not invisible. And slowly he realized something startling. He could feel safe again, even if only for a little while. Kale, on the other hand, remained a shadow. Milo would see him in the corridors, leaning against a doorway, silent and still, watching without being seen. Milo could never tell what Kale thought. He feared him, yes, but he also noticed small actions that confused him. Like the time Kale had left a warm blanket folded neatly on his bed, or the rare, almost imperceptible nod when Milo had followed the rules perfectly. It made Milo curious. Why would an alpha who seemed so cold care about the smallest details of his life? One evening, Milo wandered into the mansion's library, hoping for a distraction. The shelves were towering, filled with old leather-bound books. Riven followed silently, setting a small candle on the table. "This room is safe," he said softly. "Here, no one expects anything from you but to be yourself." Milo's fingers traced the spines of the books. He chose one that looked ordinary, cracked it open, and found a story about a lost child who found courage through kindness. He smiled faintly, feeling a spark of hope he hadn't felt in days. That night, Milo lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Noah. He missed his twin terribly, but the warmth of Riven's kindness reminded him he wasn't truly alone. And somewhere in the house, Kale watched. Kale was unsettled. He had been raised to control, to dominate, to make people bend to his will. Emotions were weaknesses he could not afford. But Milo challenged that. Milo made him feel things he had hidden deep inside, feelings he refused to name. Watching Riven offer comfort to Milo made Kale realize that perhaps he was not as untouchable as he believed. The next morning, Milo was woken not by a servant, but by Kale himself standing at the door. His expression was unreadable as always. "You will need to learn the rules of this house," Kale said simply. "Not just for you but for everyone here." Milo nodded silently. He wanted to speak, to ask questions about Noah, about why he was here, but Kale left before he could. Still, Milo noticed the slight hesitation in Kale's step as he walked away, a hesitation that had never been there before. Riven returned shortly after, carrying a tray of tea. Milo felt his pulse calm at the sight. He didn't yell, Milo said quietly. Small victories matter, Riven replied, smiling. And some rules are easier to follow when we understand them, not fear them. Milo nodded, thinking about the strange balance of fear and care in this house. He realized that survival was no longer just about following rules, it was about understanding who he could trust, and when. As the days passed, Milo began to notice small changes. Kale's eyes lingered longer than before. He seemed to appear where Milo least expected it. And Riven's gentle encouragement helped Milo find courage he never knew he had. He could now walk through the halls without flinching, answer questions without trembling, and even speak up when he needed something. It was a slow, quiet kind of healing. And somewhere deep in the shadows, Milo knew that when the time came, he would need all the courage he had learned, not just to survive, but to face the truth about Noah and the secrets this house held. Because even in a mansion filled with silence, whispers of hope could grow into something stronger than fear. Milo had begun to feel a small spark of comfort in the mansion, a fragile thread of hope he held tightly. The quiet mornings with Riven, the rare gestures from Kale, and even the towering walls of the house no longer felt completely frightening. He thought he understood the rules. He thought he was learning to survive. But then betrayal arrived in a way he never expected. It was a simple afternoon. Milo was alone in the garden, tracing patterns in the dirt with his fingers. The sunlight fell warm on his skin, and for a moment he allowed himself to forget the cold walls, the strict rules, and the missing presence of his twin. A servant approached and handed him a folded letter. Milo looked at it curiously. The handwriting was familiar. It was from someone he trusted. He opened it carefully. The words inside made his chest tighten like a fist had squeezed it. Noah's disappearance, it had not been an accident. The letter revealed that Kale had known something. Someone, about Noah's fate before Milo had been brought into the mansion. Kale had kept secrets. Kale had hidden the truth. Milo felt the ground shift under him. The air seemed thicker, heavier. His stomach twisted. He read the letter again, hoping he had misunderstood, but no. The truth was clear. Milo had been placed in this house not only as a replacement but as part of a plan Kale had kept from him. For the first time, Milo felt real anger. Not the quiet sadness of being alone. Not the fear of a strange house. Anger that burned hot and sharp. He wanted to run, to scream, to demand answers, but he did not. Milo had learned to survive, and survival sometimes meant patience. Instead he waited. Riven noticed his change first. Milo became quiet, tense, and sharp-eyed. He did not smile as often. He did not laugh at the small jokes or notice the little birds in the garden. Riven asked gently, "Milo, what's wrong?" Milo shook his head. I found something." Riven nodded. He did not ask more. Sometimes the safest thing was to let Milo find his own answers. That night Milo could not sleep. The moonlight slipped through the curtains and cast long shadows across his room. He thought about Kale, about the cold eyes that had watched him so silently. About the careful gestures of warmth that now felt like lies. About Noah, who might have been lost because of decisions Milo had no part in. Betrayal was heavy. It weighed on Milo like the walls of the mansion itself. He realized something important. The kindness he had started to feel from Kale and the growing trust with Riven were not enough. Milo could no longer depend only on the people around him. He needed a plan. He needed to be strong. The next morning, Milo walked through the halls with a new determination. He observed the servants, the security measures, the rooms he was allowed to enter. He asked himself questions. What is Kale hiding? Where is Noah? Why was he placed here? Every answer he did not have made him sharper, more aware. Kale noticed the change immediately. Milo no longer flinched in his presence. Milo no longer stayed quiet when he spoke. Milo's eyes had fire in them now, a quiet warning that he was not as soft, as invisible, or as powerless as Kale had assumed. Kale did not speak. He watched. And for the first time, he felt a strange respect mix with the irritation that Milo's courage caused him. Riven stayed by Milo's side, offering guidance and reassurance. "Betrayal hurts," he said softly one evening. "But it can also teach you who to trust, and who to be careful around." Milo nodded. He clenched his hands under the table. Betrayal had burned him. But it had also given him purpose. Purpose to survive. Purpose to heal. Purpose to seek the truth. And deep in his heart, Milo made a silent promise. He would not let Kale's secrets or anyone else's lies stop him. He would find Noah. He would face the betrayal. And one day he would make sure that those who hurt him, and those he loved, would answer for what they had done. Even in the coldest house, even against the most powerful alpha, an Omega's fire could grow strong. Milo's fire was just beginning. The mansion had grown quieter in ways Milo could not have expected. The betrayal of Kale's secret weighed heavily on him, but it had also sharpened something inside, a determination to survive and to reclaim control over his own life. He realized that anger and fear were dangerous if left unchecked. They could trap him in a cage far worse than the walls around him. Riven noticed the change first. Milo no longer flinched at every shadow or whispered voice. He walked taller, held his head higher, and no longer hesitated when speaking. Riven smiled quietly, offering small guidance without pushing too hard. "You're stronger than you think," he said one morning, handing Milo a cup of warm tea. "And stronger than you know." Milo sipped slowly, letting the warmth spread through his hands and chest. The mansion still felt cold and Kale's gaze still followed him silently from the shadows, but Milo felt something new, a flicker of hope. He had begun to heal, not fully but enough to see the cracks in the walls of the house, and perhaps the cracks in Kale's armor as well. It was during one of these quiet days that Milo finally dared to speak with Kale. Kale was in the library, seated at a massive desk, reviewing papers with the same calm, unreadable expression he always wore. Milo approached cautiously. "Kale?" he began. Kale did not look up immediately and Milo felt the familiar sting of fear. But he continued. "Why did you hide the truth about Noah?" Kale paused, setting down the papers carefully. "I did it to protect you," he said simply, his voice calm but firm. "You were not ready to know. You are here now, but your safety, your life, was my priority." Milo's chest tightened. The words sounded logical, almost reasonable, but his heart still ached. "It doesn't feel like protection. It feels like betrayal." Kale did not answer immediately. Instead, he studied Milo as if trying to read the very thoughts in his mind. Finally, he said, "I will not ask for your forgiveness. But I will ask that you trust me to fix what I can." It was not an apology. It was not warmth. But Milo noticed something behind Kale's usual stoic mask: regret. And maybe care. Days turned into weeks, and Milo began to feel the slow healing that comes not from grand gestures, but from small, steady actions. Riven continued to offer guidance, teaching Milo to navigate the house and helping him understand the complicated world he had been thrown into. Milo learned how to notice details, to predict movements, and to protect himself if needed. One afternoon, while walking in the garden, Milo tripped over a loose stone. Before he could steady himself, Kale appeared, steadying Milo with a firm hand. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Milo saw not coldness but concern. Kale's hand lingered just a little too long before releasing him. Milo did not speak, but his heart recognized the silent message. He was seen. It was Riven, however, who reminded him that healing is never simple. "Milo," he said quietly that evening, "it is okay to be angry at Kale. It is okay to be hurt. But do not let it destroy the strength you are building. Use it to grow." Milo nodded, realizing the truth in those words. Healing did not mean forgetting betrayal or pretending it didn't happen. Healing meant learning to move forward while holding on to one's own power. Milo began to understand that he could be both gentle and strong, soft yet unbreakable. Kale meanwhile began to change subtly as well. He remained an alpha, still commanding and feared, but Milo noticed moments when he hesitated before giving strict orders, moments when he observed Milo quietly, considering his feelings. Kale's actions suggested that he was learning too, that even the strongest could be influenced by someone who refused to be broken. One night, Milo sat by the window thinking of Noah and the path ahead. The moonlight spilled over the garden, casting gentle shadows that seemed to whisper possibilities. Milo felt the first real sense of hope since he had arrived. He would continue to heal. He would continue to grow stronger. And one day he would face the truth about Noah and the world that had tried to control him. Because healing hearts are not weak. They are the ones that become the strongest, quietly preparing to face whatever comes next. Milo closed his eyes, letting the warmth of small victories fill him. Betrayal had shaped him, yes, but kindness and trust had begun to forge a new strength inside him. And in the silent halls of the mansion, the balance of power was slowly shifting. The mansion felt quieter than usual that morning. The air was heavy but not with fear. It carried the weight of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Milo paced in his room thinking about Noah, about the letter, about the betrayal he had endured. He realized something important. The only way to move forward was to uncover the truth. For weeks, Milo had been gathering fragments of information, observing Kale, listening to whispers among the servants, and piecing together small clues. Every detail mattered. Every overheard conversation could be a hint. Milo had learned to watch without being seen, to listen without giving away his presence. That afternoon, Milo followed a quiet servant who slipped through a hidden door behind the kitchen. The servant carried papers, documents about shipments, deals, and a name Milo hadn't seen before. A name that made his heart skip. It was Noah. Milo held his breath as he read. Noah had been taken by a rival Mafia family, not hurt, not lost, but held in a place far from home. Milo felt a surge of relief mixed with anger. Relief because his twin was alive. Anger because Kale had known part of the truth and had hidden it. Later, Milo confronted Kale. Kale was in his office, reviewing accounts with his usual calm, unreadable expression. Milo stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Why didn't you tell me Noah was alive?" Milo demanded. "Why lie to me?" Kale's eyes darkened, but he did not speak immediately. When he finally did, his voice was low and steady. "I stayed silent to protect you," he said. "If I had told you earlier, you would have been in danger. I could not risk you running to save him unprepared." Milo's anger flared hot and sharp. "I didn't ask to be in this mansion. I didn't ask to be put in danger. Noah could have been safe if you had trusted me." Kale's expression did not soften, but there was a flicker of something Milo had not seen before: regret. "I did what I thought was right," he admitted quietly. Riven appeared then, standing beside Milo silently. He placed a hand gently on Milo's shoulder. "Milo," he said softly, "anger is natural. But now you have a choice. You can let anger control you, or you can use it to plan. To act. To bring Noah home safely." Milo closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He realized Riven was right. This was no longer about fear or betrayal. This was about finding Noah, and perhaps finally setting things right. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Milo studied maps, observed guards, and learned more about the rival Mafia family. Riven trained him, teaching him to anticipate danger and remain calm under pressure. Milo's mind was sharp, his body steady, and his heart ready for what was coming. Kale watched all of this from a distance, a silent force in the background. He did not interfere. He did not need to. Milo was growing stronger with every passing day, and Kale knew that soon Milo would act, and perhaps even teach Kale something about courage he had long forgotten. Finally, the day came when Milo felt ready. He gathered his courage and whispered a plan to Riven. Together, they would reach Noah and bring him back safely. Milo's pulse raced, but he felt no fear, not like before. The betrayal, the loneliness, and the fear had shaped him, but they had also forged him into someone capable of taking control. Kale appeared at the doorway. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes lingered on Milo with something unspoken. Milo met the gaze, and for a fleeting moment, he felt a strange understanding pass between them. "You are ready," Kale said quietly. "Do not fail." Milo nodded. "I won't." And in that moment, Milo realized something powerful. Strength was not about fear or control or even power. Strength was about love. About courage. About standing up for those you care for, no matter the odds. With Riven by his side and the knowledge of Noah's location, Milo stepped into the shadows, ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Because sometimes the truth is heavier than fear, but it can also give wings to the strongest heart. The night air was cool against Milo's skin as he stood at the edge of the rival Mafia's territory. The mansion behind him, Kale's watchful gaze, and Riven's steady presence at his side were reminders of the power that protected him. But now it was his turn to act. 4 weeks, Milo had prepared, learning every guard's pattern, memorizing the layouts and planning each step. He was no longer just an Omega. He was a strategist, ready to take back what had been stolen. "Remember," Riven whispered, "we are not here to fight recklessly. We are here to rescue Noah." Milo nodded, gripping the small satchel at his side. His heart pounded with fear, yes, but it was different now. This was focused, controlled. He would not run. He would not cower. The rival Mafia compound loomed ahead, walls high and lit by dim lanterns. Milo's plan was simple but risky. Slip past the outer guards, avoid the main gates, and reach the hidden chamber where Noah was kept. Every step required patience. Every movement demanded silence. They moved carefully, shadows among shadows. Milo felt the old fear rising, a whisper of panic, but he silenced it. He reminded himself of everything he had learned: Riven's guidance, Kale's quiet protection, the fire that had been building inside him since his arrival at the mansion. He was ready. Inside the compound, Milo spotted the guards. 2 at the gate, 1 patrolling the hallway beyond. He signaled Riven, who nodded, and together they slipped past unnoticed. Milo's pulse raced, but he stayed focused, moving quietly along the walls, his eyes scanning every corner. Then they reached the chamber. Milo's chest tightened at the sight of Noah, sitting on a simple bench, looking weary but alive. Milo ran forward. Noah's eyes widened. "Milo?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "Noah. I've got you," Milo said, wrapping his arms around his twin. Relief and love surged through him, mingled with the anger he had felt all these weeks. Noah was safe and Milo had not faltered. But the danger was not over. Guards began to notice and the alarm rang out. Milo, Riven, and Noah moved quickly, using the passages Milo had memorized. Milo felt a surge of power in his chest. He was no longer powerless, no longer just a soft omega. Every step he took was precise, every choice deliberate. They emerged into the night, free from the compound but not unscathed. Milo's heart raced as they reached the safe distance, the mansion lights glowing faintly in the distance like a promise of home. Back inside Kale's mansion, Milo finally allowed himself to breathe. Noah was safe. He was whole again. And Milo realized something important. He had grown stronger, braver, and wiser through every fear and betrayal he had faced. Kale entered the room, standing quietly as Milo helped Noah settle in. Milo looked at him and saw something new: respect. Kale's eyes softened slightly, acknowledging Milo's courage. Riven smiled faintly, proud but calm. Milo understood then that revenge was not about hurting anyone. It was about reclaiming what was rightfully yours, about proving to yourself that fear could not control you. Milo had taken back his life, his twin, and a sense of strength he had never known before. That night, as Noah slept peacefully, Milo sat by the window watching the moonlight spill across the garden. He thought of the journey that had brought him here, the betrayal, the fear, the quiet kindness, and the courage that had grown inside him. He realized that survival was only the beginning. Healing, love, and strength could come from even the darkest moments. Milo was no longer just a victim. He was a fighter, an omega who had grown into his own power, ready to face whatever came next with Kale and Riven by his side. Because even in a world full of danger and deceit, the heart that refuses to break can change everything. The mansion was quiet that morning, but Milo's heart was not. After rescuing Noah, the air felt different, heavier in some ways, lighter in others. Milo had accomplished the impossible. He had faced fear, betrayal, and danger, and he had brought his twin home. But now, a new challenge awaited, one that was far more complicated than sneaking past guards or escaping the rival Mafia. Milo had 2 alphas in his life. Kale, cold, powerful, and commanding, who had once betrayed him but now offered protection and respect. And Riven, gentle, kind, and patient, who had stood by him, guiding him through fear and teaching him courage. Milo cared for them both in different ways and his heart felt torn. He walked through the garden, Noah's soft breathing echoing in the rooms behind him. Milo needed time to think, away from everyone, to understand what he truly wanted. Thinking hard. Riven's calm voice startled him. Milo looked up to see the tall alpha standing near the fountain. His eyes were soft but curious. I don't know what to do, Milo admitted. I care about both of you. But I don't know how to choose. Riven nodded. Sometimes the heart doesn't make it easy. But it's not weakness to feel deeply. It's strength. Kale appeared then, silent as always, standing behind Milo. Decisions will define your future, he said. His voice was low, firm but not cold. You must choose what makes your heart strongest. Milo turned to face both alphas. For a moment, the world outside the garden disappeared. It was just him, Kale, and Riven. Milo felt a rush of emotions: fear, love, confusion, and hope. He thought of Kale's quiet gestures, the way he had protected him without being asked, the way he had watched Milo grow. Milo thought of Riven's unwavering kindness, the comfort he had provided, the way he had helped Milo find courage and trust. Milo realized then that his heart did not belong to only one of them. It was possible to care deeply for both, to let love take many forms. The world might not understand it, but Milo did. I don't want to lose either of you, Milo said quietly. I care for both of you and I don't want to choose just one. Kale's dark eyes softened, and Riven's gentle gaze held pride and understanding. Neither spoke immediately. Milo waited, his heart racing. Finally, Kale stepped forward. If your heart can hold this, then so can we, he said. Love is not always simple. But strength lies in honesty. You've been honest with yourself and that is enough. Riven nodded, his hand brushing Milo's shoulder lightly. We will stand by you. Together we can figure out the path ahead. Milo felt a wave of relief and warmth. He realized that life did not have to follow the rules others set. He had survived betrayal, danger, and fear. He had grown stronger and wiser. And now he could shape his own heart and his own future. Later that evening, Milo sat with Kale and Riven in the garden, watching the moonlight reflect on the fountain. Noah slept soundly in the house, safe and free. Milo's heart was full, not just with love but with courage, trust, and hope. He knew challenges would come, and the world might not always understand their bond. But Milo had learned that strength, healing, and love could coexist. And with Kale and Riven by his side, Milo finally felt complete. Because the heart that chooses honesty, even in complicated love, is the heart that can never be broken. The mansion felt different that morning. The air seemed lighter, the walls less cold, as though the heavy weight of fear and betrayal had finally begun to lift. Milo stood at the window, looking out at the garden where the first light of sunrise spilled across the flowers and the stone path. For the first time since arriving he felt a sense of peace. Noah was safe, resting quietly after the ordeal. Milo had grown stronger in ways he had never imagined, physically, mentally, and emotionally. The betrayal, the fear, and the danger had shaped him, but they had also given him courage. And now Milo had something even more precious: trust, love, and a family he had chosen in Kale and Riven. Kale approached silently as he always did. Milo did not startle this time. Kale's expression was calm, yet Milo could see a subtle warmth in his eyes, a sign of the respect and care that had grown between them. "You've done well," Kale said quietly, his voice carrying weight but not the harshness it once had. "You've faced fear and betrayal, yet you've remained strong." Milo nodded. "I couldn't have done it without Riven, or without your protection even if it was strict." Kale gave a rare, slight smile. It was almost imperceptible but it made Milo's chest feel lighter. Riven joined them, carrying a tray of tea. He placed it on the table and looked at Milo with pride. "You've healed," he said simply. "And you've grown in ways that make everyone around you stronger too." Milo realized then that healing was not just about himself. It was about the bonds he had forged, the trust he had rebuilt, and the love that had survived even the darkest moments. Together, Milo, Kale, and Riven walked through the mansion. The staff no longer seemed distant or fearful. The house no longer felt like a prison. Milo understood that power was no longer just about control, it was about care, trust, and respect. Later, Milo found Noah awake, smiling softly. "I never thought I'd see you like this," Noah said, his voice full of relief. "Safe, strong, happy." Milo hugged him tightly. "We've both grown. And now we can move forward. Together." The days that followed were filled with small joys. Milo spent time in the garden with Kale and Riven, learning about the mansion and its secrets, and slowly building a new life. Noah explored the world beyond the mansion walls, free from danger. Milo had learned that even after betrayal, fear, and loss, life could still hold beauty and trust. Milo thought back to the day he had arrived at the mansion, scared and alone. The world had seemed cruel, filled with walls and silence. But now those same walls held laughter, trust, and the quiet strength of love. For Milo, Kale, and Riven, the future was no longer defined by fear or power. It was defined by honesty, care, and the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. Milo smiled, finally feeling whole. He had survived betrayal, found his twin, earned trust, and discovered a love that was both fierce and gentle. And now he was ready to embrace whatever came next. Because sometimes the greatest victories are not in battles fought with force, but in hearts healed, trust restored, and love freely chosen.